Hey guys, Jim Grant here with AmmoLand TV. Now a few years ago, the folks at Vortex Optics launched their first holographic weapon sight, the AMG UH-1 Huey. And while it was a very well-made sight, and albeit pretty large, it had a lot of good things going for it, except they had some initial issues with the first launch of the product, with the reticle actually ghosting and cloning itself across the viewing screen, if you will. Now thankfully, the folks at Vortex Optics are renowned not just for building world-class optics, but also for honoring their no questions asked, ironclad lifetime warranty. And as such, they took care of everybody who had any problems and revised the design and fixed every issue with it. But a few months ago, Vortex actually discontinued their AMG UH-1 first generation model, and it left plenty of shooters, including myself, wondering why. Well, apparently the answer is this guy right here, the Gen 2 model of the UH-1 from Vortex Optics. But is it going to have the same growing pains or similar ones as the first model when it first launched, or have the folks at Vortex learned their lesson and perfected the new product launch? Let's take a closer look and find out. If you have any experience with the original UH-1, nearly everything about the second generation model will be familiar to you. But for those of you new to the optic, let's get a full rundown of all the features. Tipping the scales at 11 ounces, the UH-1 Gen 2 is an unmagnified holographic weapon sight with a 1 MOA dot surrounded by a hollow crosshair and a triangle at the bottom. When 0 for 25 yards with a 5.56 caliber firearm, the center dot will be acceptably close to point of aim, point of impact, out to 400 yards. Meanwhile, the triangle at the bottom shows the point of impact at 10 yards, an excellent feature when shooting over cover. The UH-1 is powered by a single CR123 battery, which provides roughly 1,500 hours of operation when the brightness is on the medium setting. The crosshair itself is adjustable for both windage and elevation, with a set of inset dials that can be easily turned with either a small coin or the rim of a cartridge. Each click of the dial shifts the point of impact by half of a minute of angle, and the crosshair can be shifted a total of 100 MOA in both windage and elevation. Additionally, the entire unit measures 3.9 inches long and 2.7 inches tall. I know it looks bigger, but it's actually not that big. And truth be told, the height of the optic is ideal to give shooters a lower third co-witness with standard height AR-15 sights. Now, like the original model, the UH-1 Gen 2 utilizes a quick detach Picatinny mount to quickly and securely mount itself to a firearm. Opposite of the locking latch, the UH-1 features a small slotted bolt that adjusts the tension of the optic on a given weapon. Now, this is pretty standard on modern firearms, but still, it's a nice feature that allows a shooter to ensure their combat optic is mounted as securely as possible to their given weapon platform. And so what's the big difference between the first and second generation models? Well, in a nutshell, NVG compatibility. The Gen 2 Vortex UH-1 features 15 daylight illumination settings as well as 4 night vision ones. And these are crucial if a shooter plans to run the optic forward of a weapon-mounted NVD. Now, to evaluate the new Vortex AMG UH-1 Gen 2, I mounted it on a few different firearms to get a better feel for the optic. I also combined it with a few different accessories to see how compatible the Vortex is with various peripherals designed for other holographic sights. First off, I installed the UH-1 on a standard mid-length PSA PA-15 carbine. This is just a simple 16-inch barreled AR-15 that just happens to have a mid-length gas system and a fixed stock. In this configuration, the Vortex handled very well and feels perfect in terms of height over bore. Basically, a shooter's eye naturally aligns with the optic, and because the crosshair becomes razor sharp when a shooter focuses their eyes beyond it, presumably on their target, it makes it very natural and lightning fast to engage moving targets and quickly acquire additional ones. Other modern sporting rifles that I installed the Vortex on included my LaRue Tactical 14.5-inch LaRue Ultimate Upper Kit build in both 5.56 and 300 Blackout. Though I only fired about 5 magazines full of ammo in both calibers while using the Vortex op, and because I wanted to have a little more trigger time behind it and get a little more familiar with the optic, I opted to utilize the CMMG 22 conversion kit to get a little more trigger time on the cheap. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're a professional gun reviewer. You probably have tons and tons of ammo stashed away. Well, I do, but it's not 5.56 and it's not 300 Blackout. And given the crazy situation in the world right now, I decided to burn up some of the 22, of which I have absolute loads of, instead. Still, after running this optic on various MSRs in both center and rimfire configurations, it's very apparent that the Vortex UH-1 is designed primarily for AR-15s. But what about less common firearms? Well, to find out, I mounted the UH-1 on my 3 favorite home defense firearms. a PTR 9CT MP5 pistol clone, a SIG MPX-K SBR, and a Benelli M4 12-gauge autoloading shotgun. Now obviously the first two have very minimal felt recoil, but they do have somewhat different ergonomics from a standard AR-15, especially the MP5, whose stock comb, or brace comb in this instance, isn't the same as an AR-15's. Well, on both 9mm pseudo subguns, the AMG UH-1 proved both fast and intuitive, though on the Benelli, it sat a little bit higher than what I was normally comfortable with. Even still, it made running the plates on my Action Target plate rack a total breeze. Now, as far as peripheral compatibility, the Vortex UH-1 was the perfect height for an EOTech brand magnifier, as well as my LaRue Tactical PVS-14 mount. The only accessories that likely wouldn't fit it would be those designed explicitly for a unique design, like a kill flash for the Aimpoint Comp M4, or something like a dust cover for the EOTech EX-PS3. All right, look, sure, it looks as big as a tank, but it's also built like one too. It's a tough as nails, hardened combat optic that can take the rigors of hard use and people like me who tend to treat every piece of equipment they own like a rented mule. So if you want an optic that'll outlast your children and their children's children and have the battery life, despite being a holographic sight, that makes sure that you only need a handful of batteries for a couple of years, you should really look no further than the Vortex UH-1. If you're gonna have something that you're gonna trust your life with, you might as well spend the extra $1 and make sure it works. Thanks guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more AmmoLand TV.